first started to think about how you describe amplified events, I thought, Doctor Who has been doing this. So what have we got at the moment? What we have at the moment is an event that's trapped in space and time. So it's trapped in space, the people in the next room don't know what's happening here, and the people who might arrive an hour late, they can't get to this. This session is trapped, it's not interoperable. And the only way you'll be able to go back to this session is if you're Doctor Who, and you've got a time machine. Or if you record the events. So this can be time-shifting events. And this is, Chris Exton knows this. Chris gave an excellent opening talk at UConn's IWMW event last year. And we videoed that. And we synced the live Twitter stream. And it was actually quite interesting because on the Twitter stream, there was, you might remember this, somebody had said, suddenly I'm feeling very deflated. And Chris tweeted that and said, I wonder why, I wonder what I said, which made them suddenly, oh, this is a really good talk, and something like that. And I tweeted back to Chris and says, there's now this stream, so you can go back, see what people were saying there, and see what you just said just before. I don't know if you did work out what it was, because of course it might have been not you, it might have been something happening in the real world or whatever. But we can go back there. This was a Untitled, which was developed by Martin Hawksey, RSC Scotland, North and East, to integrate those two channels. So there's a way in which we can go back in time in a lightweight fashion. A bit of videoing. So Marika's got my iPod Touch and is videoing now, and a bit of Twitter back channel. Now, this probably won't be so effective, or might it be that I can see only a couple of people are tweeting, but this can be something where you get the benefit of the scale. You get large numbers of people tweeting. You're actually crowdsourcing a kind of collective memory which can be linked with the content itself. So that's one thing, the space and time. And Marika's going to tell the story about when I was in Barcelona, or Girona, at a conference, and it was at Dali's museum. And it was remembering this, the persistence of memory. So, we go to a talk, it was a fascinating talk. Can you remember it in a week's time? Can you remember it in a month's time? Maybe you can't. So if it's not there, you need to write it down in order to have those memories. You need to tweet about it to have those memories. But also perhaps you need to engage with other people. And you can do that engaging now within Twitter. You can talk to him, and he can talk to her over there who's not physically present. So it can help with that deeper understanding. So there are a couple of my views of the reasons why we may be interested in amplifying events. Now, the term amplified conferences was coined by my former UConn director, Lorcan Dempsey, back in 2007. Just this short blog post in which you observe that people were using messaging and Skype and LinkedIn and other things. And it was kind of interesting because that phrase became viral. And, shortly after that we were all talking about it. So I wrote, a year later, this Wikipedia article which was trying to define what we meant by an amplified event. So, amplification of the audience's voice. So you can all be talking amongst yourselves. Amplification of the speaker's voice. So remote audience who can view the video stream. Amplification across time, the time shifting, and amplification of the speaker's slides. So those slides can now be viewed, they're on SlideShare, they can be viewed remotely. So Lorcan coined that term, but it was actually back in 2003 when Paul Chabouget and myself were at the web conference, which was in Budapest, and there was a Wi-Fi network. It was the first time I'd been at a conference when there was a Wi-Fi network, and some people actually had a laptop at a conference. Can you imagine? You go to a conference and people were there with a laptop. This was amazing in 2003. But what was happening was Tim Berners, somebody was giving a talk, and the speaker said, when Tim Berners-Lee coined the term hot links in 1990, whenever it was, he meant such and such. And on the back channel, which was IRC, Tim Berners-Lee says, I never said hot links. And they went and they had a look at the old archives, And I'd get any questions, and it was, yes, what I said back then was such and such. I didn't say hot links. So Paul wrote this article for the Times Higher, which was entitled Real-Time Peer Reviewing. So you're exposing the speaker at a research conference to that real type of peer reviewing. So in the article, it was discussing the possible negative side of things, how noisy it can be typing away. If you're not part of that cool crowd, you're feeling excluded, and it's a bit scary. I'm sure many of you have been in that position when you're there and there's an audience and all of a sudden they start typing away and it's, oh my God, what have I said, you know. So there's those type of concerns as well. But Paul concluded that there were actually more benefits: collective learning, analysis, comprehensive notes, shared analysis and links, but perhaps the richest potential lies in the interaction between members of the audience, particularly if you believe that learning and the generation of knowledge are active, engaging in social processes. So this is what Paul was saying in 2003, and predicting the conferences were going to transform because of this. And I think that was very insightful of Paul, and I think this is the environment we have now. And so back in 2005, we wrote this first paper, which was kind of looking at a framework for best practices for exploiting what later became known as amplified events. But how? So that is my brief, this is what it's about, and here is some of the history. So what I'll do now is I'll pass it over to Marika, and Marika can stop the